Hey everyone, my name is Sara Nicole Landry, and you might know me from The Birds Papaya. The Birds Papaya is a 12-year brand. I actually started blogging while being a stay-at-home mom, and then when Instagram became a thing, I started on the gram, and I grew from there. Now, I've only been doing this full-time for about a year and a half. A year and a half ago, I was at 70,000 followers. I quit my job to pursue The Birds Papaya full-time and ended up expanding and exploding and growing this community and this platform to now 1.5 million in my community, following, whatever you want to call it. So I'm here to talk to you guys today all about that kind of exponential growth, growing a community, tips, tricks, tactics. I don't really like using those words all the time because it feels like you're fishing a little bit for people, and that's not really what it's about. It's actually about creating real, genuine human connections. The reason I started doing what I do 12 years ago was because I was lonely in motherhood. I wanted to find people, I wanted to find community, and I was able to do that simply by reading other stories and by writing my own. And let me just tell you, it was atrocious. The work that I did was not good. It was not high quality, but I did it. And in the process of doing that, you learn. So let me kind of talk about some core things that I'm going to go through with you today. The first one is why community first efforts are a true key to growth and authenticity. When I quit my job, I knew that my core ethic had to be commitment to community. I didn't want to just bank off of people. I didn't want to just draw in followers just to have them. I wanted us to feel connected. I wanted that human connection feeling for myself and for them. And so that's why in any other business structure, if you looked at how you actually operate, how much time are you actually putting into customer service? How much time are you actually putting into the manpower of like production time and all of these different things? You can break it up depending on what your business model is. For me, I knew that in order to actually support what I was doing, it was actually incredibly important that I had an authentic following and an engaged one. So I decided if I'm going to have an 8-hour workday, which I mean, like sometimes it's 12 hours, but in an 8-hour workday, I would commit 4 hours every single day to community engagement. This includes commenting, replying to DMs, and commenting on other people's pages as well. So like replying to comments on my own, and then going and actively engaging on other pages similar to mine, nothing like mine, just being a supportive person. What I found with this, and something that was really something that that feels magical about this as well, is it no longer feels like you're just showing up, you're outputting something and you're walking away. You're actually tangibly there. You're part of the customer service. You're part of the conversation, not just standing at a stage with a microphone. You're off the stage and you're engaging with this audience. You're part of life with them and alongside them. And it really sometimes can get tough when you have two sides of communication, but that's how relationships grow stronger. That's how they believe your authenticity. It ends up being that your influence or your platform actually has a stronger ROI because the turnover from that trust and that authenticity really comes into play when you have people that truly believe in everything you're saying and trust your words. And I believe that comes from spending time with people. But there's always things to avoid. And for me, this was something that I learned along the way. And one of them, in terms of like community growth and engagement pods or comment pods. You might have heard of these before. Basically what they are is when groups of people with common goals kind of get together and they agree to comment on each other's posts. Now, years ago, I was working at a publishing company and it came up that these were going to start being flagged by platforms, by Facebook, by Instagram. They were going to stop allowing things that showed as false engagement. And So with that, whenever comment pods came up, even though I know a lot of people who do them quite ethically and do them just as a means to support each other, there's a lot of unethical ones that exist out there as well. So I decided to avoid them completely. I wanted to be authentic in the way that I was behaving on social media at all times. And that included that when my comments were on somebody's post, they were genuinely from me, not out of, a need to perform for them or, follow up on my commitment to an engagement pod. The other one, and this might sound a little controversial, is I don't use hashtags. That's right, I actually don't rely on hashtags whatsoever. And this might be completely opposite from what somebody else is doing. And I'm just gonna disclose that. What I'm telling you right now might be completely opposite of what somebody else is doing. But as somebody who's grown from 70,000 to 1.5 million in a span of a year and a half, I'm telling you, I did it without hashtags. So I think it's important to talk about. Why don't I use them? For me, I found that a lot of people would follow hashtags that, let's say for instance, I'm talking about body confidence. If they follow body confidence hashtags, they don't actually have a reason to follow me. All they're doing is they're seeing me come up in their page over and over again whenever I'm using that hashtag. Secondly, rules of social media, the second something comes up that is inappropriate on a hashtag, Instagram will shut it down. Facebook will shut it down and no longer show people those hashtags. And not only that, they'll actually potentially shadow ban you. An artist friend of mine had this really beautiful artwork and she posted it and was shadow banned almost immediately and noticed it almost immediately and came to me and said, do you know maybe what I've done wrong here? So I went and I looked at her hashtags. She had several of them. Usually people copy and paste them from a place they've saved. And what I noticed that she had done was in this artwork that was a picture of a woman holding a peach, she had used the hashtag peach. Now, you might guess what peach might also be used for in the world of social media. Very adult-like content. So Instagram protecting itself, protecting viewers and users, they shadow banned that hashtag. This is all kind of like what we can draw a conclusion to. I don't work at Instagram, don't know for sure, but we've seen this time and time again. The second a hashtag gets co-opted by something inappropriate, and I've started hashtags before. I started a hashtag called the slow-mo body flow, where people could just wiggle their bodies in a slow-mo video and post them using that hashtag. It was about a week before it was taken down and no longer used and no longer allowed to be seen. So I just personally stopped using hashtags. So where does that bring you from growth? I'll tell you where growth came from for me. It came from community sharing. Anytime that I posted something and my community engaged with it, not only did it help me get into Explorer pages more, but it helped people share my work. When people care about you and they know what you're saying and doing is authentic, and when I'm the same way. If I find a post really has hit me in a really authentic way, I'm 100% going to share it. I'm going to put my name to this and be like, I 100% agree with what this person just said. This felt powerful. This felt meaningful. I really liked this artwork. This is a really cool sale going on right now. Whatever it might be, shareable content is huge. People love to share work of those that they love. And so some of my biggest growth days ever, and up to 100,000 in a day, came from singular posts that were shared hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of times by the community members that I spent so much time investing in, 20 hours a week, in conversation with them, building these friendships and these relational bonds so that, when I do the work that doesn't really get paid for and can kind of get unnoticed, they make sure that their audiences are paying attention as well. And we kind of together get to co-opt one singular message or one singular post by kind of showing support to each other. Now here's the thing. As you might have noticed in my story, I talked about that 12 years ago I started this, but only a year and a half ago was I able to quit my job. That doesn't really sound like a success story. It only sounds like the last year and a half was a success story. You can look at those numbers, you can look at these things, but I want to talk about the fact that you can see success in every stage, even the ones that aren't rewarding you. And here's what I mean by that. Because every stage in what I've done has lent itself to where I am now. Those very beginning days when it was all just about human connection, when it was about reading other people's work, when it was about finding out what I liked and what I disliked, that was doing something. Pay attention to those things. You will genuinely learn more about yourself and the way you perform in social media. Start paying attention to your own behaviors and you can actually start to build upon that. Don't write off the years of you building as failure. They're not. They never will be. It's not about just these fast successes and these big stories. Sometimes it's about the grit and the tenacity to keep going when you're not being rewarded, to see the differences in what my very first Instagram post was like versus what they are now. It's incredible. It's remarkable to see the growth of an individual. And I think we need to honor that as success along the way. And that also means honoring your failures. There's no such thing as a failure if you see everything as an opportunity. Some of my worst work, I've left it up. And the reason I do that is because I love being my own best hypocrite. I love that people can go back in the story and see where I was an entirely different person and get to watch the growth from there. It can be really hard on social media to be vulnerable or to be real or to be whatever it is that you are. Being wrong feels like the worst thing possible. But the thing is, when people realize that we're all human beings and we all have this opportunity to grow together, that can really do something for you too. So I don't really look at any of my failures as failures. I look at them as opportunities to learn. Everything that I'm sharing with you, I can only relate it to my own story. I can only relate it to the other things that I've seen people do and the success stories that they've had. But this is the thing, every business, and if you take even down to a structure of a brand, individual brand, store brand, whatever, like big corporation brands, all of them come down to like these similarities and these differences. For instance, I found that the format in which I do my work, it actually works a lot better if I write my captions before I caption my image. Formerly, I used to always have an image and then I would struggle to find something to write with it, or I would try and just like really just get it posted and really wanting to get content live all the time, that I didn't actually take time to like evaluate the value of written word. And once I started putting that value in, I saw a huge return. And I've done comparison notes on this before as well. I've seen that if you put the same type of post up twice, the one with a very short, snappy caption, and then another one similarly, but with a longer form caption, I actually saw so much more engagement and shared work based on that. But I couldn't tell that to my aunt who runs a chocolate shop with a social media page that these things are gonna work the same for her, because that wouldn't be true. People are likely following her for giveaways, for sales, for events. So part of that community engagement and involvement is getting to know your audience. Why did they follow you in the first place? And when you are on social media, you follow different pages, take a minute to think why. Ask yourself the question over and over again. Why do I follow this page? Why do I like this image? What about this makes me want to share it? Once we start recognizing our own human characteristics and our own human behavior on social media, we can start to see and understand how it works otherwise. Finally, I want to talk about the importance of integrity and self-care in growing a community. It is not easy all the time. There will be days where you are met with a lot of negativity. And there are days that you recognize that you almost feel the pull to post something because you need to be validated in who you are. It can be really difficult to create boundaries when you are your brand. Normally with a job, you'd go from 9 to 5, clock in and clock out. When you're somebody on social media, that doesn't exist anymore. You're always available. You're always there. You're always on. Burnout rates are higher than ever. It's now been recognized as an actual condition, and it's hitting so many. And we're seeing more and more brands fall apart, more people stop posting, stepping away, and struggling to keep up with that growth because it can be so difficult. Recently, I know somebody who, by a viral post, grew about, I'm not even kidding, close to 1 million in a week. When I spoke with her, she was very open about the fact that it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows and celebration. It's actually been met with a lot of criticism, so much more impact and now this huge responsibility that she has to maintain every day. Having integrity in your space and knowing your own personal boundaries is everything. Because at the end of the day, you are the only one that knows you. You are the only one that knows your true intentions. Being intentional with your brand, you can't really fake it forever. And trust me, I'm somebody who tried. When I started my brand and my platform, a lot of it was wrapped around kind of being this perfect woman. I wanted to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother with the perfect home and the perfect body. And I burnt out. I ended up divorced, living with my parents, 3 kids in tow, no car, no money, and starting from scratch. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it woke me up to the fact that you can fake it all you want, but unless you're authentic in what you're doing, you'll never feel it. It'll never feel rewarding. And when you're growing a platform, it can be really intimidating. It can be really hard to create boundaries and to feel like there's an end point. There's never an end point. When I hit 1 million, I looked at my husband and I said, because I got remarried, I looked at my husband and I said, oh my gosh, like I'm just so excited to be done having to like chase something. Now I can relax. It was about 2 minutes before somebody said to me, I wonder when you'll hit 2 million. And that's just the thing. It's never enough. Do you ever see musicians with these amazing hit songs? Do you think they sit back and celebrate it, or do you think they worry about the fact that they've now had a hit song and they have to deliver again? We have to know that we're enough. We have to know that our work stands alone, and that sometimes people might love it and sometimes they won't. And that our growth, even if it takes 10, 12, 20 years to get there, is always a success story if we love what we're doing and we're doing it for the right reasons. So I believe your core ethics and your community and really good behavior on social media and being really integral about how you're operating and paying attention to why you like things, why you engage, and what makes you tick is the key to growing a really authentic following, one that will root for you, one that will be there with you, one that will allow you to get it wrong and be there with you as you learn to get it right. I think that the more you create boundaries, the better you are. The more resting you do, the more reading you do, the more research you do, the better creator you are, and it's worth taking care of yourself. I want to thank you guys so much for this time today and for this opportunity to speak at LeaderCon. This is a little weird doing it virtually, but I really hope that those listening really have something to take away from here today. Just know that whatever you're doing, it's always a success story if you allow it to be that way. There's not such thing as a failure if everything is a learning opportunity. And I can't wait to see how you grow in your own brand, in your own job, and in your own life. Thanks for having me.